We had planned a trip to go to France. Well, I was in a YPO organization, and we went over there on a planning trip. And towards the end of the trip, we got a phone call from my mother saying that Brandon was in the psychotic ward in a hospital in Walnut Creek. We got ourselves back maybe 36 hours later, went immediately to the hospital, and he was in the psychotic ward and in a very troubled state. We just knew that the Brandon we knew was not the Brandon that was in front of us right now. And so we were determined to not let this condition prevail. We found a friend who was a psychiatrist at the University of California at Berkeley, got us on the right path, and helped us find one of probably the best diagnostic psychiatrists in the country, who we got Brandon to, and after a full day of diagnostic work, was able to tell us what the problem was. But it was a long journey, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years before he could fully accept that. But I think he fully accepted it knowing that he was getting better and the medications were helping him. But he certainly wasn't the person he wanted to be and that he is now, but he was on a long journey. Well, the hardest thing for patients and parents with a brain disorder is that unlike cancer or unlike diabetes, there's no, at least at that time, there was no physiological evidence. The pathology of these illnesses has only become recently understood. If you have a tumor, you can see it. If you have diabetes, it shows up in your blood. If you have a broken arm, it's on an x-ray. But when you have a thought disorder, how do you figure that out? What do you point to? Today, we're trying to do a great deal more work to educate both junior high school and high school teachers and physicians on what are these early signs. And we've actually developed a standardized interview that is now being used called the SIPS for people that if they present positively on these symptom profiles, it's very likely that they're in a troubled state progressing to a potential psychotic break. Are you having trouble sleeping? Do you hear voices? Do you feel more comfortable being alone? Has anyone in your family ever had a mental illness that you know of? Do you wake up in the middle of the night with thoughts that would trouble you? Questions that would be obvious for people to ask, but no one ever really thought to ask that about a person's behavior, because when you're a teenager, just as we attributed Brandon, you go do quirky things, and this whole adolescent hormone raging bizarre behaviors of kids just gets lumped into a bundle, and it's very hard to separate out those very clarifying behaviors about people progressing towards a psychotic break. So it's that combination of no blame, understanding that it's environmental triggers of genetic mutations, and that unconditional love and the compliance with medications is going to ultimately lead to a recovery. And your son or daughter can not only be okay, but they can be great again. And so we put that hope in people's minds, and then we make ourselves available to say, call us, because it's very hard to go through this alone. I guess the final thing we say to parents is you have to take care of each other, because if you don't, you can't take care of your son or daughter. You need to get help yourself if you have to, because the family's got to be an integral unit here in making this recovery possible.